Shalom, my name is Yoshua Yaakov Ben Abraham, and I'm making this video from Jerusalem. Really, it's about the Ponzi, intellectual Ponzi scam by Hitchens. So what is his Ponzi scam? Well, you have to have the background, so we'll start with that. And the theme of the video is transform you, you transform the world. Okay, this refers to fighting the war of the redeeming of the captives. What's the context of the war for redeeming the captives? That's God's war that every man has to fight in the redemption. And the collapse of the local reality that occurred 18 years ago has brought it. And that's the reality we're in. Now, herein, man's task is combating within himself and others man's common ignorance of science and wrong perceptions of man's spiritual reality in our world and in the cosmos. This is man's paradox of mind error in denying God, and also man's dilemma of man's captivity. And that captivity is in the mind. Okay. Although God is not at all man's only target. Okay. Exile's dilemma denies man himself. In other words, man's authentic identity. Okay. So, although God is not all that man's mind in exile's dilemma denies, we're repeating ourselves. Very important point. Man is also denying his authentic self. Not only does he deny God, he denies his authentic self. And this is the man delusion that Christopher Hitchens has fallen prey to, as has Dawkins and a lot of others. And basically, that's the Ponzi scam. It's an intellectual Ponzi scam. For example, look, I who have read Freud know what I'm talking about. Sorry, Chris, you don't know what you're talking about. Let's move on from the dilemma of man's exile to the paradox. The paradox is that which, quote, sounds right, but it's wrong. And also, the other way around, sounds wrong, but it's right. Sound familiar? Okay. Man's denial of God and his denial of his authentic self has him in this cloud in his mind of the dilemma. And ultimately, the dilemma is trying to coerce a choice between two falsehoods, okay? And that's the duality that was created in man's mind, okay? One is called, in our tradition, they hate Sarah, hates it, but one is the evil inclination, the good inclination. Both are the result of the evil inclination, okay? And that has to do with a duplication, a psychologic manifestation of mind that duplicates the natural duality by the evil inclination. So it's got its own duality. Okay, so that's really the dilemma that man is presented with. He's presented with two falsehoods to choose from, and that's the man delusion. Okay. As man's natural maturation process unfolded in history since Gan Eden, it wrongly defined man's exile as a dilemma. Okay, it's not a dilemma, wherein man learned and wrongly believed he's to merely choose between the lesser of these two falsehoods, as I just explained. While the truth in life is not a dilemma, only in exile is man living a life of dilemma. Okay, that exile has ended despite man's denial. Okay. Got to keep an eye on the clock here because at 46, let's see, okay, at 45 we have to shut down. Okay, so the first choice offered was the nascent notion that there is no God. And next, that creation is not proof of God's existence was believed as a credible argument. It's not. Okay. While, whether from a design ontologic, cosmologic perspective, the idea of man's faith in God being seen as naive also holds no evidence of God's non-existence. And that's one of Hitchens' favorite flags that he hoists up. And these also is not credible, having absolutely no weight of persuasion. Paragraph. As such, these arguments are merely modus tollens, which really is denying by denying, okay? And that's what really Hitchens is doing. He's denying God's existence merely by denying. He has absolutely no proof, and his science is non-existent. Okay, it's transparent. It's a common polemist tactic for seeking popular following, which he's done very well in securing, as the presenter and in this case, Hitchens and other presenters like Dawkins, they recognize exactly what their audiences can be, in what ways they can prey upon them, in what is suited to their victims, whose common illiterate levels of science as their state of being and or cognitive vulnerabilities make them easy prey. So that's what he's getting away with. That's the Ponzi scam. Okay. While such presenters' specious public dialogues offer little and unknowingly are themselves revealed as victims of their own indoctrination-like ideologies. As is often well masked, yet it is commonly favored by today's polemists, particularly Hitchens. While it is to be further noted, criticism of one's faith in God or another's faith in God or religion is as well not proof of God's non-existence. Where is the proof? There is no scientific proof in support of any of Hitchens' arguments. It's all modus tollens. It's denying by denying. While it's to be further noted, there is no such proof in any event. Okay, while there is significant credible science and spiritual evidence and proof of God's existence, as is here and next heuristically set forth. And what am I referring to? I'm referring to that atheists, particularly Hitchens, they claim, and their most common claim, I might add, to the science illiterate masses, the absence of scientific evidence of God's existence. Oh, look, there's no scientific evidence of God's existence, so they claim, as their proof of God's non-existence. It's not an argument. It's not a scientific argument. Okay. This is insufficient and it's dishonest. For merely pointing out the former limitations of yesterday's science before the EPR paradox, and I might add that's Einstein-Rosen-Poldusky paradox, Bell's theorem, Bohm's quantum potential as the defense of Bell's theorem, wasn't needed anyway, parenthetically, and the discovery of the non-local quote-unquote reality and confirmation of the collapse of the local reality globally all prove God's existence. None of those arguments are addressed, and there is no scientific proof offered in any of Hitchens' arguments, or Dawkins, or anyone else's. Okay, so having said that, what we have here is, again, modus tollens, denying by denying. It's an empty bucket, and so that is my first part of this video. There will be another one, but I think it's high time that people called up Mr. Oh, by the way, there's one more little detail. You have to answer for me my challenge. I've taken, and rabbis and everybody else, and nobody's answered. Christopher, let's stop the charade and the sham. The answer to your challenge is, quote, the truth is the information that never changes, parenthetically, in finality, close prints. Changing, parenthetically and intentionality, close prints, in quote, full stop. That's the answer. You've not answered it. None of your people have answered it. This, if you can make this statement, by all means do. I've answered you. And so more to come. Thank you for listening. I'm Yeshua Yaakov. I'm the author of the Humanomics trilogy and its central organizing principle, Kabel B'Shvil Ted in Hebrew, which is an English receiving to give, and the new economic paradigm, the integration of labor. Thank you for listening. I'm Yeshua Yaakov from Jerusalem. Thank you.